I was too scared to sleep. If I went to sleep, I might not find Satoshi-kun there in the morning. So I kept talking to him until I passed out. I told him about what happened while he was missing. I told him that I realized how much I loved him after he went away. I'd searched for him, looking into various different things. I gathered underground information through Kasai and bargained for police information with the Wishi. But I couldn't find any leads. A long time passed, but I kept thinking about him. Etc., etc. I told him all the small details from my daily life. The places I wanted to go with him, the things I wanted to do with him, the food I wanted to share with him, and I told him a lot of things. I was sitting up at first, but I got tired, so I lay down. I got tired of moving my mouth too, so I started talking to him in my mind. It was the happiest night I'd ever had. When I woke up, I didn't find Satoshi-kun by my side. I knew it somehow. I was afraid of it. That was why I didn't want to go to sleep. But at least I got to see him for one night. Just when I'd resigned myself to that, I felt Satoshi-kun's presence again. It wasn't a dream after all. I thanked God. So I began my strange life with Satoshi-kun. As promised, Satoshi-kun was always by my side. He couldn't laugh, mumble, or stroke my head, but he was always with me, always right by my side. He disappeared sometimes, but he'd come back when I looked for him. It seemed that all I could hear was his footsteps. That's just the way it was. It was a bit sad, but I was still satisfied. His presence was really faint, so it was hard to sense him in a crowd. But he never left me. If he were tangible, I'd be taking his hand all the time so that he wouldn't be lost. In contrast, I could feel him very strongly in a quiet environment. Of course, I couldn't tell what his expressions were because he was just a presence. But after I got used to it, I could tell what he was thinking. At first, I could only tell if he was laughing or not. Eventually, I started to feel his emotions more strongly. I could communicate with him normally. I was usually alone with him, though. I didn't want to go to school or hang out with my friends anymore. But Satoshi-kun got upset about that. He'd keep mumbling unhappily. Now that I knew he'd always be with me, I shouldn't just stay home all the time. I was sticking to my time alone with him, however, because I was scared that he might suddenly disappear again, and I wanted to make the most of the time I was sharing with him right now. I must have been worrying too excessively. Satoshi-kun will always be by my side. Yeah, that was his promise. He never breaks his promises. I was fine because he was there. Of course, I couldn't tell anybody about him, not even Sis. I could try to explain it to them, but they'd never understand. But I was certain that he was with me. So, I'd be alright. I never got fed up with life with him. He's really cute, you know? We always walk together. But when I stop, he always walks one extra step. That's so adorable. I love it. Notebook, page 159.
Shion さんはどうなさいますか？今夜のWatanagashiのお祭りは。
行って適当に遊ぶつもりです。お姉とその愉快な仲間たちでもからかうかな。
Did we rewind a bit? I wanted to go to the festival with Satoshi-kun. I knew he liked to see me having fun with everybody. He might get jealous if I play with Kei-chan, but Satoshi-kun isn't very sensitive in that way. Satoshi-kun loved to see me and my friends have fun. So I should have a lot of fun for his sake. Then I'd talk about the day with him later.
何でひなみ沢に行きますか？車で行くならお送りしますよ。
I guess she's allowed to go to Hinamizawa now.
スクーターで行くからいいや。
それはいけません。帰りに本家に寄られて親類の宴会に加わられるんでしょ？居眠り運転などさせられません。
He won't let me drive, but he's kind enough to let me drink.
じゃ、お世話になりますかね。
わかりました。では夕方に出発しましょう。そのくらいの頃にお迎えに参ります。
After Kasai left, I sensed that Satoshi-kun was excited about going to the festival.
Watanagashiか。サトシ君がいなくなっちゃってから、もうすぐ1年になるんだね。
So yeah, we did rewind. Or did we? Or was that the event that happens like a couple days before the festival? I guess we didn't rewind. I guess that was the bit before. I guess that little bit with the rest of the crew was the bit right before the festival. Okay. Well, at one point they forbid her from setting foot in Hinamizawa, period. I don't recall that actually being rescinded. Satoshi-kun seemed confused.
でしょ
We laughed together.
いらっしゃい。
And I mean, part of it is we are now looking through the eyes of someone mentally damaged or distraught or something kind of that like. Distraught or damaged enough that you think ghosts are real and one's following her around. So I don't know how reliable the narrator is here. Time for goldfish.
よし、やるぞ。金魚はみんな生きがいいね。実に美味しそう。この小さいのなんか、そのままボリボリと生でいけちゃうよね。
Huh?
ミオンさんは何を言ってるんでございますの？みーちゃん、食べてたの？去年レナからもらったのも食べちゃったの？違う。私そんなこと言ってない。
You kinda did. Sis shook her head hard. She turned all red.
いや、でも今ミオン、お前自分で言ったぞ。実に美味しそうだって。
確かに言いました。お姉って雑食ですから、口に入れば何でも食べちゃうんです。美味しいなら今度僕も試してみるのです。ダメだよ、リカちゃん。お腹壊しちゃうよ。
See, I vaguely remember this from when it happened way back when.
ちょっと待て。おいこら。お前いつの間にいるんだよ。シオン。
はーい、ケイちゃんにお姉にみんな。
Yeah, maybe.
こんばんは。
It is very possible that she was mimicking the words to make her sound like she ate goldfish.
焼きそば屋さんの時からずっとです。お姉たちは騒がしいからすぐに見つけられました。もうあんたは関係ないでしょ。早くどっか行きなさいよ。もうお姉もあまり私を邪険にしないでください。
So, what happened? It didn't answer that. It didn't really answer it as to what happened, why Mion turned so nasty towards her sister, and why Shion just has nothing to do but tease Mion right now. It didn't really go into that. I mean, there was a little bit of teasing about Keiichi there for a little bit, but I don't think that's quite enough to get this level of hatred that Mion has been showing Shion this whole time. Or, you know, it just doesn't seem to fit. You know what I mean? It seems like there's a little bit of a jump that's made here.
ね、ケイちゃん、私が一緒でもいいですよね。
Although things like this I can see exacerbating the situation. I mean, I don't think they hate each other, but it sure seems like in public, like this, they do not like each other very much. I mean, they aren't showing that they like each other at all. I took Kei-chan's arm and held it between my breasts. Puff, puff. We were going to have a ball. I went around the booths with Sis and her friends. I joked around and laughed out loud. I teased Kei-chan and Sis too. Kei-chan was at the center of the group, so if I did something to him, it naturally involved everybody else. Answers in chapter 37. Dear God. It looked like Satoshi-kun was having a hard time finding his own spot in the crowd. When I glanced at him in a quiet moment, he smiled and told me to have fun without worrying about him. If he were tangible, I'd pull his arm to join the crowd. It made me sad that I couldn't do that. I bumped into somebody's shoulder. It was obviously my fault, so I apologized right away. As it turned out, it was somebody I knew.
あら、楽しんでるみたいね。
Hi, enjoy the night. You'll be dead soon.
こんばんは、シオンちゃん。月の綺麗な晩ね。あれ、すごいお久しぶりですね、高野さん。それから。
そうだね。挨拶をするのはこれが初めてだね。僕は富武。ミオンちゃんの双子の妹さんだって話は聞いてるよ。
よろしくです、富武さん。凄腕のカメラマンとのお噂だとか。ぜひ今度私も映してくださいね。
デビューを夢見て投稿を繰り返す素人だけどね。
Yeah, don't get your hopes up, man. You only have a few hours left.
二郎さんは上手よ。いろいろとね。
いやいや、まだまだ勉強が足りないよ。才能に恵まれない分を努力で補わないとね。
They must have been in a relationship.
高野さんと富武さん、仲がよろしいようで。私はお邪魔ですかね。あらあら、ご検察痛み入るけど、お気遣いは結構よ。それに高野なんて、なんだか他人行儀みたいな呼び方ね。昔みたいに、ミヨって呼んでくれていいのに。やっぱり目上の人にファーストネーム呼びつけはちょっと気になるものでして。まあ気にしないでください。
I smiled bashfully, and Takano-san smiled back elegantly.
あれから図書館には来ないのね。研究の同志としてもっともっといろいろお話ししたかったのに。まあ気が向いたらそのうちってことで。
研究の同志って、まさかシオンちゃんも興味があるのかい？ そのこの村の昔話とかに。
Tomitaki-san raised his eyebrows. As far as I knew, Takano-san's hobby wasn't exactly normal. On the surface, her research dealt with the cultural history of ancient Hinamizawa, but its main focus was the Watanagashi festival from ancient times. The cannibal banquet in which they captured and gutted a living sacrifice. Her research covered various stories surrounding that and other legends of cruelty. It was nothing if not gory. That was where her main interest lay. So, I didn't feel comfortable being called a fellow researcher, to be honest. But objectively speaking, her research notes were fun to read. Fun is not objective. I'm just gonna throw that out there. Fun is never objective. It was then that the loud booms of the taiko drums, the main event of the Watanagashi festival, the dedication dance, was about to start. According to Takano-san's hypothesis, the part of the dance where the shrine maiden tears open a futon mat represents gutting a living victim.
いよいよ始まりますね。そろそろ私も行くかな。高野さんたちも見に行くんですよね、リカちゃまの儀式。
うん。
Tomitaki-san looked bewildered. Did that mean he wasn't coming? Takano-san giggled, then whispered in my ear.
実はね、これから西宮殿の中に入ってみようと思うの。
We're gonna do crimes!
え？
She made it sound like she was going to do something fun, but it wouldn't be amusing to anyone who knew what the ritual storehouse was. The ritual storehouse, or the storehouse for ritual implements, is sort of a treasure house belonging to the Furude shrine. I'd heard that Oyashiro-sama's sacred treasures were stored in there. Only people from the Furude family and selected members of the other 3 families are allowed to enter. They believe that if other people enter, the place will be desecrated. Everybody in Hinamizawa must have been curious about what was in there when they were kids. But the storehouse is always tightly locked. You couldn't just peek into it either. Kids would get chided if they played around it, so they'd learn to stay away. I didn't like being around it myself since I was familiar with all that. Even though I didn't believe in curses, but I do believe in ghosts, I still didn't want to be near it. Nothing good can come from breaking the rules. Were they still going to enter the ritual storehouse despite all that?
でも確かものすごい厳重な鍵がかかってたと思いましたよ。
去年まではね、前の缶抜きじゃ重すぎて大変だとリカちゃんが言ったらしいの。それで今年からものすごく安っぽい南京錠に変わったの。知ってた？
いえ、知りません。でも安っぽいと言ったって錠前がかかってますよ。
二郎さんね、とても器用なの。
じゃ開けられるんですか？
綿流しの儀式が始まれば全員が儀式に集まるでしょ。西宮殿の周りには人影は全くなくなる。今夜が一番の資格なの。東大元暮らしとでも言うのかしらね。
According to her hypothesis, the ancient tools used for human dissection and torture would be found in the ritual storehouse.
よかったら後でこっそりいらっしゃいな。二度とないチャンスよ。じゃあよかったら後でね。
高野さん、何の内緒話だい？
女同士の内緒話よ。行きましょう。暗くて人気のないところへ合いびきに。
ん
Takano-san walked against the flow of the crowd alongside Tomitaki-san. The ritual storehouse, huh? It was supposedly filled with torture tools. Considering what they had in the underground torture room at the Sonozaki house, that's quite possible. Satoshi-kun fell victim to the curse in the 4th year. His aunt's death was a sign of Oyashiro-sama's curse. Satoshi-kun was the sacrifice to pacify Oyashiro-sama's anger. That was what Takano-san said last year. It was just her hypothesis. At present, I wanted to deny her hypothesis because I wanted to believe that Satoshi-kun was still alive. If her hypothesis was correct, either some religious fanatic or somebody from the 3 families must be imitating the curse in order to revive the ancient custom of Onegafuji. That would mean that it was them who killed Satoshi-kun. So what if the ritual storehouse was filled with garbage instead of torture implements? Maybe it was filled with broken palanquins or freshly painted signboards for the festival. What then? It wasn't really hard for me to believe that it was filled with the chemical smell of paint. Maybe I'll get to deny the hypothesis that Satoshi-kun was sacrificed by seeing the inside of the ritual storehouse for myself. Whatever was in there, it didn't mean Satoshi-kun would come back.
サトシ君、どうしよう。
Since most people went to see Rika-chama's ritual dance, the festival grounds were deadly quiet. Even so, I couldn't sense Satoshi-kun. Did he go somewhere, or was I not paying enough attention? Or maybe he wasn't feeling any emotions in particular. After thinking for a while, I decided to go in with them. It had been almost a year since Satoshi-kun's disappearance. I'd been avoiding the truth because I was afraid he might be dead. But now, I had a chance. I had a chance to see the inside of the ritual storehouse. I felt as though something divine had arranged that coincidence. On my way to the storehouse, I noticed Keiichi. He was jumping up and down, trying to see Rika-chama's dedication dance over people's shoulders. If I took him along, we could split the guilt. Oyashiro-sama might put a curse on me for entering his divine storehouse. I wanted a partner in crime. Since a boy I loved disappeared last year because of the curse, maybe Mion's love should disappear this year.
何考えてんだ私。
Jesus, Shion! That must have been the demon inside of me. I shook the thought out of my head.
どうしたんだよ、シオン。それより、奉納演舞がよく見えるとこってまだ遠いのか？
え？奉納演舞がよく見えるなんて誰が言いました？
We made it to the ritual storehouse. Keiichi was baffled by the whole situation. Our timing had been perfect. I could see Tomitaki-san picking the lock. Yeah, Shion deserves it for this. Even though Keiichi must have been curious, he insisted that we shouldn't go in. But I talked him into it anyway. He was quick to change his mind when Tomitaki-san joined in. It was completely dark inside, so Takano-san lit a battery-powered lantern. A small entry space appeared before us.
真っ暗だね。みんな転ばないように気をつけるんだよ。
ご心配ありがとう。じゃあ門番をよろしくね。ここ閉めるわよ。
Takano-san closed the door with a smile, as if leaving Tomitaki-san out on purpose.
やれやれ。じゃあみんなゆっくり楽しんでおいで。
As soon as the heavy door was closed, we were surrounded by a quiet darkness. All we could rely on was Takano-san's lantern.
大丈夫よ。予備電池も入ってるアウトドア仕様なんだから。消えたりなんかしないわよ。
Takano-san teased Keiichi a little. Keiichi, in turn, looked a little pale. He seemed to be able to recognize the sanctity of the building even though he wasn't from Hinamizawa.
さあ、入りましょう。よいしょっと。
After Takano-san opened the heavy inner door, a dusty, foul smell flowed out. It was like the smell of a pantry that hadn't been opened in years and the smell of a fish market mixed together. I didn't know exactly how to describe it, but it was a bad smell. From listening to the echo of our footsteps, I could tell that this room was much bigger than the one we were just in. When Takano-san raised her lantern, I could clearly see just how big it was. At the far side of the wall, there was a statue of some kind of god staring down at us intruders. The way it was lit by the lantern gave it a powerful appearance, and it scared me.
あれがひなみ沢の守り神、お社様よ。
I looked up at the statue, which was holding its religious ornaments. If Satoshi-kun's disappearance really was a curse, I couldn't forgive this god. I found myself irritated by the way the statue looked down at me. Damn you, Oyashiro-sama. If you really made Satoshi-kun disappear, I'll never forgive you. Never. Keiichi didn't seem to understand the significance of the storehouse. He looked bored. Takano-san noticed that and took out her scrapbooks to show him the brutal history of ancient Hinamizawa. I'd heard that story already, so I decided to walk around by myself. Since I knew the significance of all these tools, I felt a little nauseated. Though they certainly wouldn't jump out to me, I still found them intimidating. They looked as if they were craving for fresh blood after not having been used in hundreds of years. All the tools looked similar to the ones I saw in the underground torture room at the Sonozaki main house. If these tools were the progenies of torture implements, these would be their ancestors. Yeah, we at least did skip the repetition of the whole background here. That is good, although they could have skipped it in just about every utterance in this chapter. I mean, I understand that you don't want to let new readers, you don't want to leave them in the dark, but this does say chapter 5 on it. It's kind of, it's kind of implied that there are 4 other chapters you need to read before this to get caught up. They weren't kept maintained like the ones at the Sonozaki house. So, did that mean they shouldn't scare me? No, on the contrary. They told me that cruel rituals were indeed performed in this village at one point. Now that I found scary. What Takano-san told me was the truth. When I stopped, Satoshi-kun also stopped behind me one step later. I felt no emotional change in Satoshi-kun. I couldn't tell if he was feeling something or not. I knew he was there, but I had no idea how he was feeling. I felt scared of him for the first time. If he could answer me, I'd want to ask him, who demoned you away?
ね、サトシ君。聞いてる？
I couldn't tell if he'd heard me or not. He left, as if he didn't hear anything. I could tell that he'd been sulky ever since we got here. I suddenly felt lonely, so I looked for him while walking around. I realized then that there was an altar in front of the statue. He might be there. It was a clean altar. An altar ornamented with religious artifacts. It was kept well maintained. I saw no dust. That would mean, well, the flowers in the vase weren't wilting. I saw a pretty handkerchief under the vase. It looked out of place amongst everything else. I'm fairly certain it was Rika Furude's handkerchief. That would mean that this storehouse is maintained daily. It wasn't a forgotten ruin buried in dust. So the brutality that dwelled in this ritual storehouse is still alive and well in Hinamizawa. That's right. Something as ambiguous as Oyashiro-sama's curse is nothing more than a simple delusion of the villagers. As Takano-san said, everything that happens in this world is done by humans. I'd accused Oyashiro-sama of demoning away Satoshi-kun. But Oyashiro-sama is just a statue made of bronze or wood. It's nothing but an icon. There are, however, human beings who would try to make that icon seem real. The series of mysterious deaths in Hinamizawa is a result of human action. It shouldn't be called Oyashiro-sama's curse. If Satoshi-kun was the fourth year's victim, then he was victimized by a human being who was just acting the part of a curse. The person who demoned away Satoshi-kun must not be very far from me. The truth behind Satoshi-kun's disappearance was not so far from my grasp. Thump. I was startled by the sound. It sounded like somebody had dropped something. I looked over at Takano-san and Keiichi. Takano-san was still lecturing him. Did she drop her scrapbook or something? Thump, thump, thump. The sound came from right behind me, not from them. I'd never heard Satoshi-kun do that. It sounded like somebody was stomping on the floor in frustration. What was it? Thump, thump, thump. The sound continued, ignoring my question. Though I heard it right nearby, it sounded as though a child was hopping on a wooden floor somewhere distant.
どうしたのサトシ君。何か怒ってるの
I couldn't read his expressions. I thought he was mad, but I didn't sense any emotion from him at all. Was he mad that I touched the altar? Maybe you weren't supposed to do that. Thump, thump, thump. It's not that I've been able to communicate with Satoshi-kun in a concrete way. I just talked to him. I was never expecting him to react like that. I didn't sense a willingness to communicate from this creepy sound. Then a chill ran up my spine. I felt as if all my pores were opening. I'd been thinking that it was Satoshi-kun stomping on the floor. Hey, you! You're Satoshi-kun, aren't you? The sound stopped when I asked that. It wasn't a yes or no, just silence. Satoshi-kun wouldn't scare me like that. I realized suddenly that the sound hadn't come from Satoshi-kun. Yeah, that feel when the hallucinations start to get overwhelming? Yeah. A cold shiver shot through my feet and I sprung a step backward. The sound had come from right there. Even though I jumped back, it was still just a few meters away. Satoshi-kun would sometimes let me hear his footsteps when I walked. But if that wasn't Satoshi-kun, there was no guarantee I'd hear its footsteps. So that invisible being could already be right in front of my eyes. And I just wouldn't see it? I forgot everything and ran, straining my ears as much as possible for any sound, listening for any footsteps pursuing me. I ran right into Keiichi and clung to him, timidly turning back to look. The dimly lit area before the altar was quiet, like nothing was happening. But seeing that chilling, dark stillness, realizing I was just in that space, made me even more frightened now.
どうしたよ、シオン。ひょっとして怖くなった？
Keiichi made fun of me. Even though he'd looked horrified just a little bit ago, he now looked satisfied to see me scared too.
お化け屋敷で女の子がしがみついてくるのはデフォじゃないですか。まんざらでもないくせに。ほらほら、行きましょう。高野さんに置いてかれます。
I pretended to be fine, but I wasn't sure if I was able to hide my fear entirely. The footsteps were chasing me. They were outside the illumination of the lantern as if they couldn't go into the light. The presence never left us, however. It followed us like a fourth member of the party. Sometimes it made a stomping sound as if wanting some recognition. But neither Takano-san nor Keiichi seemed to notice it. It was possible for Takano-san to be ignoring it. But Keiichi would never ignore it. If he could hear it, he would have said something. Dang it. So, just like with Satoshi-kun, only I could hear it. What was this thing that was making me so scared? Was it Satoshi-kun in a bad mood? Or was it possible that the presence I believed to be Satoshi-kun might not have been him at all? Thump. Thump. What are you upset about, Satoshi-kun? Tell me if I did something wrong. I'll apologize. Thump. 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 If you aren't Satoshi-kun, then where did he go? When did you take his place? Thump. Thump. Thump.
シオン、大丈夫か？
はい、全然平気ですよ。それよりケイちゃんこそ顔面蒼白でかなりヤバげかと。
なら、あまり俺の服を引っ張りすぎないでくれると嬉しいんだけどな。
あ、こりゃ失礼です。
あらあら、私はお邪魔かしら。
I decided to engage in the conversation to help myself ignore the sound from behind. I didn't hear the sound as much, and it became a bit more distant. Yeah, I shouldn't pay attention to it. It wouldn't bother me if I didn't hear it. I should just ignore the noise.
で、高野さんはその風習が実は現代にも残っているんじゃないかと思って研究をしてるんです。
Yeah. Shion is not okie dokie.
そうでしたよね。
Thump thump.
これ本当に内緒なんだからね。しおんちゃんは理解のある人だから話したけど、他の村人には聞かれたくないの。下手をしたら罰当たり者ってことで袋叩きにされかねないんだから。
Can't say you wouldn't deserve it, though. She smiled at me like a witch. Thump, thump.
前原くんも内緒にしてね。知られたら私、お社様のたたりに会うか、生贄にされちゃうかするかもしれない。
Satoshi is trying to call the sandworms.
たたりなら、今年はどんな死に方をさせられちゃうのかしら。生贄なら、鬼ヶ淵の沼に生きたまま沈められちゃうのかしら。そういえば今夜よね。お社様のたたりがある夜は。
It certainly is. The curse strikes for a fifth time. It'll happen tonight. Thump, thump, thump. Takano-san pulled out an old scrapbook from her paper bag and started turning the pages. She opened it to the page with that one article. It was the article about the brutal murder of a Watanagashi victim. It happened in the Meiji era.
これは実際にあったお話よ。明治の終わり頃にね。鬼ヶ淵村で身元不明の惨殺死体が発見されたんですって。
The thumping's getting more violent here.
かくも無残かつ残虐非道を。
Hey, you guys seriously don't hear that? It's freaking loud. How can you not hear it? Ah, hell, it's freaking noisy. Cut it out already. And the next moment, we all heard a squeaking noise. We turned around in surprise. It was just Tomotaki-san opening the door.
驚かせちゃったかな？
あら、二郎さんも見たくて我慢できなくなったかしら。ここ、素敵な拷問道具の宝庫よ。
僕は遠慮させてもらうよ。生来ね、こういうのは苦手なんだ。
Takano-san laughed as if making fun of Tomotaki-san for being such a scaredy cat.
それより、演舞とセレモニーが終わって、みんな沢の方に降りていったよ。あと何分もしないうちにお祭りは終わっちゃう。
Time was up. I'd never expected that Tomotaki-san would save me from this nightmare. His face suddenly looked heroic.
ケイチ君も出るかい？
もう十分に見ましたので。シオン、もういいだろ。出ようぜ。綺麗な空気が吸いたいよ。
同感です。出ましょう。
I went into the entry room and turned around. Takano-san was taking photos in a mad rush, although our time was up. I didn't hear that sound anymore. I didn't feel that presence. I didn't feel Satoshi-kun either. But somehow I wasn't too sad about that. Even if he followed me out here, and I wouldn't be able to tell if it was really him or somebody else. Ooh, chapter break. So, is this when everything goes completely off the rails, or are we at the end? 3 new tips, but you know. Oh, good. We get the Defilers achievement. That underground torture room is officially called the Underground Ritual Storehouse. So do torture room and ritual storehouse mean the same thing? According to Takano-san's theory, bloody rituals, including Watanagashi, have been passed down among the 3 families even after the Meiji era. The rituals are always ready to be performed. The form of worship always revolved around torture, so Hinamizawa's history involved a great deal of human slaughter. Takano-san's theory is correct. The underground storehouse at the Sonozaki house looked well maintained. Takano-san is right about that too. Since the Sonozaki house and the Furuta family both have ritual storehouses, the Kimiyoshi family must have one too. After all, these ancient and brutal customs are still handed down through the generations. I should remain armed with the knowledge that occult events are still secretly being performed in this cursed village. The sanctity of the ritual storehouse is one of the most prominent elements in the worship of Oyashiro-sama. Of course, I knew that since I'm originally from Hinamizawa. But violating that sanctity is actually a more serious problem than I thought. Takano-san's research shows that the history of the ritual storehouse goes way back. The ritual implements within have long been viewed as inviolable objects, which is why it was strictly forbidden to enter. Takano-san's theory says that Watanagashi was once a public execution performed to stabilize the reign of the 3 families, rather than a purely religious ritual. If so, the ritual should hardly be called sacred. Under those circumstances, the implement should have been despised as symbols of hatred and fear. When instruments of fear are too visible, it only creates a reign of terror. But to keep them hidden as possible, and they gain divinity. Many said they would become tainted if the layman touched them. The only reason for that was to preserve their false prestige through secrecy, since they would lose their sanctity if revealed before the common folk. In other words, the true identity of the ritual storehouse's sacredness was fear. That was the true emotion ruling over this village. And one more. The reason why Takano-san and Tomataki-san were cursed is because they broke into the ritual storehouse. I don't know how the villagers found out about it. Maybe somebody was watching. Maybe there was an anti-theft alarm. Either way, our intrusion must have been reported to the highest level of the curse system. That's because, considering the distance between the village and the site where Takano-san's body was found, she must have been killed right after we came out of the ritual storehouse. It was done very quickly. It's possible that a special assassination team exists for this purpose, or that the plan had been set up a long time ago. They might have been secret agents of the Sonozaki family, but the latter sounds more valid. But if so, who would have been the victim if nobody broke into the ritual storehouse? Good question. And I don't think we're at the end yet. Yeah, it looks like, well, end of chapter 9. So already is a bit of a loaded term here.